So Sean, a lot of people struggle with knowing that evangelism is required, but feeling like there are obstacles that keep them from actually doing that. Does the Bible say anything about that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think the issue is knowing that we need to spread the gospel, this good news, but we are asking ourselves, what's hindering me from doing this? Just a few examples. One of the traps that we get into is that simply we're not looking around. We're just considering our daily lives. I think one really good example, one that encourages me is Joseph. When you come to Genesis chapter 40, a little bit of background, you remember here he is sold into slavery at 17 years old, rises to power under Potiphar, handed over, accused of basically taking advantage of his wife, and here he is in jail. And I think this is really interesting. As he's in jail, there will be a cupbearer and a baker that's there with him, and probably rightly so. Verse 5 of chapter 40, and one night they both dreamed, the cupbearer and the baker, of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, each his own dream, and each dream with his own interpretation. And when Joseph came to them in the morning, he saw that they were troubled. He asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him in custody in his master's house, "Why are your faces downcast today?" And I think it's a great example because from a worldly standpoint, and what we can find ourselves falling into is, who cares why your face is downcast today? You're in here because you're supposed to be. But I think it's a good example of someone who's just simply looking around at others around him who are in turmoil and being considerate of them, and what happens from Joseph and how God is able to use him to bring about his people and save them. It's phenomenal. So one of them is just being mindful. Another obvious obstacle is fear. Maybe not knowing what to say, or being criticized or ridiculed, and I don't think that's abnormal. That's what makes Christians courageous. It's not the absence of fear, but standing up for what they believe to be true. You're going to see this in Acts chapter 26. You know, here Paul is in custody, appealing to King Agrippa. He could have kept quiet to try to just lay low and get out of the situation, but as he pleads his case for his conversion, in chapter 26, verse 24, as he was saying these things in his defense, Festus said with a loud voice, "Paul, you're out of your mind. Your great learning is driving you out of your mind." But Paul said, "I'm not out of my mind, most excellent Festus, but I'm speaking to you true and rational words. For the king knows about these things, and to him I speak boldly. For I'm persuaded that none of these things has escaped his notice, for this has not been done in a corner." And he asked him, "King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know that you believe." And Agrippa said to Paul, "In a short time would you persuade me to be a Christian?" And Paul said, "Whether short or long, I would to God that not only you, but also all who hear me this day might become such as I am, except for these chains." Paul understood what it was to be ridiculed, but he stood his ground. He understood that these are true and rational words. I think we need to be encouraged by that and follow in his footsteps. And then finally, I think another obstacle is just simply feeling uncomfortable. It pushes us out of our comfort zone, and that's okay. Peter knew what that was about. Of course, in the well-known Acts chapter 10, Peter's going to have the blessing of seeing this first Gentile convert. And if you try to put ourselves in his shoes, we can understand the awkwardness of a Jew being in the company of a Gentile and even going into his home. Matter of fact, that's the context of Acts chapter 10. Peter is called to follow these men to come and have this conversation with this Gentile. Verse 23 of Acts chapter 10, the next day he arose and went away with them, and some of the brothers from Joppa accompanied him. And on the following day they entered Caesarea. Cornelius was expecting them. Here's the Gentile, and had called together his relatives and close friends. When Peter entered, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshipped him. But Peter lifted him up, saying, "Stand up, I too am a man." And as he talked with him, he went in and found many persons gathered. And he said to them, "You yourselves know how unlawful it is for a Jew to associate with or to visit anyone of another nation. But God has shown me that I should not call any person common or unclean." And I think that what happens here, not only the beauty of seeing the first Gentile convert, but the beauty and the experience that Peter had of being pushed out of his comfort zone. Cornelius, he was the Gentile now. There was a face, there was a name. And I think these are good, and I think we just simply need to have faith and follow in their footsteps.